Dr. Paul Offit, who was a member of the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee, was on CNN yesterday, and RFK Jr. health advisor Calley Means drug him through the mud over vaccines and children's health, exposing his ties to pharmaceutical companies in a very heated back and forth that has gone viral. The fallout from this, though, is actually way more important in what has emerged regarding Offit's role during COVID-19. In this first clip I have for you, Offit explains how the Biden administration knew in 2021 that natural immunity was more effective in preventing serious illness from COVID. So why did they still mandate the vaccine? Well, you're about to see why. And this meeting that he refers to, he exposes exactly who was there in this second clip I have for you and reveals why the government lied to us through these vaccine mandates. Fuse this with the latest Yale study that just came out showing cell damage in individuals caused by the COVID-19 vaccine. And Dr. Deborah Birx explaining to Chris Como how long COVID is similar to HIV. This is critical information that everyone needs to hear. What on earth has been done to us? I'm Zach Costello.
With the mandates for vaccines or mandates for masking, we leaned into a libertarian left hook, and I think it's really hurt us.
Right, especially with also not taking natural infection into account.
Yeah, I was actually part of a meeting that I remember that meeting. It was in February 2021. So I guess it was right around the time. No, it's later than that, I think. But in any case, so I can tell you that the administration was considering it. They were considering saying, in this setting, because we were starting to mandate vaccines, if someone comes in a workplace or hospital or whatever and says, I don't want to get vaccinated, but I've been naturally infected, and I think natural infection will prevent me from getting serious disease, therefore I don't want to get a vaccine. There's every reason to believe that natural infection would prevent against serious disease. And the data came out fairly soon showing that that was true. But so the administration, I think for more reasons having to do with bureaucratic concerns, because this added another layer. You had to now prove that you were naturally infected. You could probably buy, a PCR positivity card off the internet. So you really would have to show that that you had antibodies to, to the viral proteins. And that was just another layer that they just didn't want to consider.
So they knew that it was true that natural immunity was effective in preventing serious illness, and therefore individuals who had already had COVID had no need for the vaccine. But because of bureaucratic concerns and it adding another layer, this was the reason why they didn't tell anyone about it. It gets worse, though. That meeting that he refers to there, listen to this.
In February of 2022, I was asked with 3 other immunology virology types to participate in a conference call about whether or not natural infection should count as a vaccine. In other words, that for those areas that were still mandating vaccine, which was many in early 2022, whether they should be able to say, look, here, I was naturally infected here. This should serve as my vaccine card. And that meeting was held with Rochelle Walensky, Tony Fauci, Vivek Murthy from Surgeon General's office, and Francis Collins. And then me and 3 other immunology virology types. So he started off, he said, let's introduce ourselves. So, Tony Fauci says, I'm Dr. Tony Fauci from NIID. And then Rochelle Walensky says, I'm Rochelle Walensky from CDC. I said, we know who you are. And the question is, who the hell are we, right? Tony didn't need to introduce himself. In any case, we voted on it, and it was sort of 2-2, basically. I mean, I was one of I think natural infection should count for obvious reasons. I mean, actually, you're making an immune response to all 4 viral proteins. You, in many ways, make a broader cytotoxic T-cell response. I think you're better off in many ways. The problem with natural infection is it's misnamed. It should be called survivor-induced immunity because not everybody lives with a natural infection. So,
yeah,
that was. I wish we had then immediately gone to the press and said, look, here's the conversation we just had. Here's the conversation that we went back and forth on this. Because while we all basically agreed, I think that it should count, that the question was bureaucratically, would it work at a time when people could just go on the internet and say, look, I've been naturally infected and get out of it. It's just, it became more of a bureaucratic issue. So I saw Dr. Fauci at a meeting maybe a year ago or so, because I was already getting out there saying, I think we should target high-risk groups, where I was getting a lot of pushback from public health people who felt that I had gotten off the bus. Because see, that was the whole feeling in this. You're either on the bus or off the bus, and there was no in between. So I got, I said, Tony, am I wrong? Am I wrong in making it? He said, no, you're right. We should target high-risk groups. The problem is, the minute you say that, it becomes a nuanced message. And a nuanced message is a garbled message. If you really want to make sure those groups get vaccinated, then you recommend it for everybody. And okay, so if we think that, we should say it, because my personal thinking on this is, then if that's the reason we're vaccinating healthy 16-year-old boys, that's not a good reason. And just have it open, say it openly. You know what I'm saying? Because I think people are smart enough to hear it.
You know what I'm wondering as I'm listening to that? Why didn't Offit say anything at the time? Why is this coming out years later? And you know, because our overlords decided that because there was nuance, you were too stupid to understand that guidance. Blanket vaccine mandates and lying about natural immunity was the way instead. And to think, this man just got pardoned by Joe Biden. They forced this poison onto us knowing many didn't even need it. And when I say poison, this is exactly what I mean. Alex Berenson posted this very urgent preprint of a study conducted by top Yale scientists investigating chronic conditions in individuals after receiving the COVID-19 vaccination. They are finding T-cell exhaustion and prolonged spike protein production in some vaccine recipients. And to put that in lay language, basically, they've found cell damage which compromises the individual's immune system. Chris Cuomo just had Dr. Deborah Birx, who has done extensive research into how long COVID is similar to HIV on his show. And listen to this.
Comparisons to HIV, you've done a ton of research in this. Do you believe this is a false flag? Is there something that contextually people need to understand about that comparison? Or is this much darker a potential reality than we knew?
The reason the comparison to HIV is important is because HIV was also asymptomatic. I mean, you couldn't see the virus through symptoms because people were infected for 7, 8, 9 years before they developed symptoms. But HIV quietly destroyed our immune system, and we learned a lot about immunology from HIV, and it's changed completely our cancer therapy. We're learning now about mitochondria and viral impact and brain fog and the changes in our neurons and the cells that nourish our neurons that really allow us to think and move. And we're learning that because what of long COVID has done. And so there's two sides of this coin every time. There's a lot of destruction that mild and moderate COVID can do, that is on scene, just like HIV was destroying our immune system. But what came out of that is brilliant science that changed how we treated HIV. And if you're diagnosed today, you can live a very normal lifespan, and people not only survive but thrive. We need to get to the place where people with long COVID, we've done the research so that people with long COVID can not only survive but thrive.
What has been done to us and why? The bureaucracy couldn't tell us the truth. We, the American people, are too stupid to understand nuance. Is it because they were bought and paid for by Big Pharma? Is there a more sinister reason? We know COVID came from the Wuhan lab. We know there was NIH funding going toward gain-of-function research. What has been done to us? We need answers. Guys, if you got value from this, please subscribe and follow me here. I'm giving you God first, quick-hitting commentary to keep you informed, in truth, and on the path toward your potential in this life. I appreciate you.